welcome everyone for this online session co-presented by Wafa and Incubate Me. I am Alice Zhang, your host. I am the founder of Incubate Me and co-founder of Wafa. So for the ones who don't know, Incubate Me is a community with the mission to help all the micro entrepreneurs to launch your company. And Wafa is a nonprofit 501c3 organization with the mission to empower women founders as well as investors. And I'm here today with my two co-hosts, Carol from Wafa and Christina from Incubate Me, as well, of course, our other guest speaker, Dianna, here as well. So before we officially kick off the session, I'm going to go through a few of the housekeeping items first. And for people who joining in, please mute your computer first so we can get the thing out smoothly. So this session will pretty much be broken into two parts. The first half, we will have a one-on-one interview between me and Dianna to go through her personal journey. And for the second half, we will open the floor to the audience to have a Q&A session. If you do have a question, I would say, please type your question first in the chat box. And when we have the Q&A session, our two co-hosts, moderators, Carol and Christina, will call your name and please go ahead. You can ask your question or we can ask the questions for you. Right. And this session will be recorded. So rest assured, we will send you the recording session post the event. And with that, I would like to, so a brief introduction of Dianna. Dianna was a founding team member at a number of high growth and modern startup, including Away, Into the Glass, Tamara Mellon. And just before launching Crown Affair, she actually founded a brand consultancy agency called Levitate. I love the name, by the way, where she worked with a range of clients, including Outdoor Voices, Harris Flamingo, The Wing, Yumi, Buck Mason, and more. And her work and Levitate actually landed her a spot on the Forbes 30 under 30. So she's very young, although she's very accomplished here. Forbes 30 under 30 marketing and advertising list in 2019. So welcome, Dianna. And again, we are all honored to have you here. We would love to learn a little bit more about your personal journey.
Hi guys, still learning technology. Thank you so much for that thoughtful introduction. I'm so happy to be here with everybody and chat today. It was a really, really lovely introduction. It's been a minute since I've heard of all of that. It's definitely been a journey. And I love that you love the name Levitate because that actually came from, I don't know if anybody has seen the HBO documentary. It used to be more Defiant ones with Jimmy Iovine and Dr. Dre, but has anybody seen that documentary on HBO? The Defiant Ones? Has nobody seen that documentary? Raise your hand.
Or type in the chat box.
Okay. Or type in the chat box. Guys, you have to watch it. It's all, okay, cool. Alexis Ventura's seen it. So cool. Yes. It's a documentary about Jimmy Iovine and Dr. Dre and how their separate careers and how they built an empire with Beats and sold it to Apple for like billions of dollars. And there's a scene where Eminem is describing the relationship between Dr. Dre and Jimmy. And he said, Dr. Dre's the innovator and Jimmy's the levitator. And I wrote that down. I was actually working full-time at Away at the luggage company at the time. And I just like wrote it down in my phone notes. If you don't take notes all day in your phone, you should. And I love the idea that you could be somebody, right? We like talk about innovators and founders all the time. And I know it's ironic because I'm a founder and this is a founder chat, but I actually think the levitators behind the scenes are the ones who can be the most powerful. So I called my company Levitate because I genuinely still to this day love just sitting with innovators and being like, how can we levitate your idea? So that was that's honestly, sometimes it's weird for me to even think that Crown Affair is my company. Like I just wake up every day like trying to, like I feel like my team, we're all so equal in so many ways, and we're just trying to take these ideas and levitate them. So I love that you loved the name.
Oh, that's a lovely story. So I would say to begin with, well, obviously we have already started, but I would like actually to go back a little bit more in time, kind of do a little bit time travel. So probably, I guess, a few years prior to Levitate, right? Because from my perspective, maybe I'm saying that for the audience as well, is we would love to hear maybe going back to the time where you started as a founding team member in some of the most forward thinking brands, consumer brands, right? Such as Away and a couple of others. Maybe start then. We would love to hear how you worked in those forward thinking consumer brands a couple of years earlier. And,
Sure.
what did you do there? I know you much of your work has something to do with branding. So tell us about your experience working as part of the founding team
For
in
sure.
those companies.
Yeah, so I'll even take you one step further back. I always joke that I was kind of born in the comments section back in high school when Tumblr was a thing and Instagram did not exist. I spent a lot of time on Tumblr reblogging style.com content, fashion content. That was very much my passion, and I felt a lot of self-identity around those stories and that art form, and built a community online in Tumblr, which kind of carried through all the decisions of the finding these brands early, because these brands like barely had names when I joined them. Like whether it was Spring, which was a mobile shopping app called Jello Labs, or even early days of Away, like they had barely started shipping suitcases. So I got really lucky. I had cold emailed a woman who had a website that I loved, which was a beauty site with reviews, and it was Emily Weiss when she first started Into the Gloss. So I got really lucky by just kind of following my gut and my passion, because I knew that, at the time it was like, if you wanted to hear Reese Witherspoon's look or beauty, you'd have to read like a People Style Watch. It wasn't actually talking with her. And that was where so much of the magic around discovery was happening. Like a lot of kind of the traditional publications felt very product placement-y, press teams. And this was like, oh, I love this rose water from Whole Foods, and it's $8. Like, and that's where people would start talking about that kind of thing. So as equally as important as it is to profile a real woman or a celebrity, it's really in that comment section that so much of the goodness happens. So whether you're commenting or not, or just kind of on looking. So, moderating those comments, interning and then working it Into the Gloss to produce editorial content. There was just so much goodness there. And it was the beginning of, native advertorial, working to shoot really scrappy campaigns. And I got lucky when I was there. I met a woman named Era Katz, who is the co-founder of Seed, which is a probiotic symbiotic company based in LA now. But at the time, she was looking to launch a mobile shopping app and really reinvent the way that consumers were behaving online. And I was the first employee there. It was probably a little bit early in the mobile commerce space, but it was founded by the two Tisch brothers. And the company was called Jello Labs for a very long time. I was there for 8 months of pre-launch, and we had over 300 brands on the platform. And that was when Shopify was still a baby. It was Jello Labs. It was, Magento, Demandware, like Shopify was just kind of getting started. And it was the first time a lot of these brands were thinking about how consumers behaved online, and what it actually meant to purchase something online, and how you tell a story and fall in love with something. And, Instagram did not have a shopping feature in the way that it does now. And actually a lot of that team on the UX and UI side joined Instagram about 4 years ago and launched the shop feature there. So that was really special because it was the first time I worked with engineers. It was about an 85% eng-led company. So even just the processes, systems, structures, being a brand marketer, which I'll talk about in a minute, it was like a whole new world, just like sitting around a group of engineers every day to build things and get them excited to tell these stories. Because what might make sense on the product side, it's really different when you're the customer. You're like, this is actually, I have 12 tabs open when I shop and I compare. And, it's not as simple sometimes or elegant as you'd think in terms of consumer behavior with e-commerce. So that was a really amazing experience. And
Brand.
really opened me up to a ton of different brands. That was, Neil, Warby was around, Warby Parker, but it was just a few years in. Andy and Jeff were just launching Harry's, and Taya just started Outdoor Voices, and Emily and Henry were just building Glossier, which was like so crazy because it'd now been a bit of time since I left into the gloss. So it was really early D2C, but still kind of, paid marketing was working. People were shopping online in this new way. So to be able to learn the ins and outs there was pretty game changing for me. And when I did decide to either join a company full time like Away or start Levitate, I was kind of in this ecosystem of digitally native brands and consumer brands. And I joined Away. I was at Spring for a little over 2 years, and I was lucky. I consulted with Tamara Mellon between then. So was introduced through my mentor. She was looking to launch a direct consumer luxury brand, her shoe brand, and love Tamara, but like she built an empire in the 90s and 2000s with Jimmy Choo. And for those who might not know, she's the founder of Jimmy Choo. And she sold her company, I think, for like a couple $100 million back in 2013, tried to relaunch something, but didn't totally understand the consumer landscape. So we were paired together, and it was just the two of us trying to figure out how to translate her luxury visual literacy into the internet. Because for her, being a brand person, having references like a beautiful 70s Helmut Newton photograph of like a naked woman by the pool in heels, like doesn't, if you're the woman and you don't own the house and the Ferrari out front, it can feel really disempowering. So like, how do you create this beautiful luxury world online and really elevate that experience? And I'm almost done with my journey, I promise. I joined Away shortly after. It was like 8 of us in a room with like so many suitcases. It was crazy. And I was head of partnerships there. We did 9 partnerships during my time. So many of those partnerships we've actually kind of revisited for Crown Affair. Madewell was the first partnership I launched at Away, and we actually just launched a Crown Affair comm kit with them end of last year. So same team, same girls who've been there for like 5-6 years. And, everything from MBA to Universal to Rashida Jones to Carly Kloss, like spearheaded all those partnerships. And then, worked with Outdoor Voices to lead their influencer ambassador community, which became the second largest revenue driver for the business. As you all know, influencer and ambassador is incredibly powerful if you're thinking about launching and building a business, which we can dive into. I worked with Harry's actually again to launch Flamingo, their women's line, which is one of the fastest growing care brands in Target. And they actually just launched a hair care brand this week, which is really funny. Very, very different energy and vibe than Crown Affair, but so proud of them. And it's I was really working on Crown Affair nights and weekends, making product. It started from a Google Doc because I really try to not use hot tools on my hair or style my hair with any heat. So my friends always ask me how, I get my hair this way. And I would explain to them just casually in conversation, like hair is a fiber. It is all about moisture and like understanding how much moisture your hair needs. And, do you brush it in the evening? Are you using a hair oil? Like what towel are you using on your head after you get out of the shower? Like you're probably causing more frizz and breakage if you're using a body towel on your hair. And it just became this really natural, organic conversation with the women in my universe who are total badasses, probably like so many people on this call right now, but just didn't necessarily take the time to look into their hair. And there's obviously been a revolution and democratization of skincare and color cosmetics over the last 10 years, but hair care has still kind of always been rooted in professional and styling and dry bar. And I just really was focusing on all this time that I wanted to spend at home, even pre-pandemic, like caring for my hair and nourishing my hair. And it's obviously kind of taken off this year as we have more time in our homes if you're able to stay home. So to put a little bow on this long monologue, I was consulting. I kind of knew at a certain point after getting feedback on the product samples that I didn't really want to build other people's businesses anymore. And I was really excited about what I was building. So decided to go raise money and build a team. And it's actually our 1-year anniversary today. We launched January 28th of 2020. So it's been a crazy and fun year.
Wow, that's amazing journey. Compressed into a very short monologue. Um, so, by the way, congratulations on the first year anniversary. I love your brand. So fast forward. Okay, so we are 1 year anniversary of Crown Affair. My sense, because I mentioned I signed up, I bought a gift set, I signed up. I feel it very like branding wise, it's hard to articulate, but it feels very different. So maybe you can help me understand what Crown Affair is about, what this brand is about in your vision, in your field, and what kind of product or community or vision you want to build Crown Fair to be.
Yeah. Well, I think first, and I know we talked about this a little bit, but what is brand and what does brand even mean? And I think my personal mission statement, which we'll get into kind of Crown Affair and the mission statement for Crown Affair, but my personal mission statement with my work and career is to work and build brands that change the way people feel. And whether that's something like away, like I don't think most people really like thought about their luggage before, like whether you were an away person or not, like it kind of changed the conversation there. Or even with Outdoor Voices in a space that was all about harder, better, faster, stronger, professional athlete, sponsorships. And don't get me wrong, Nike kills it on the professional athlete sponsorships, but just giving the audience and customer permission to like be who they are, I think is so important. Or just think about this in a different way. So that was happening organically for me and my personal community of friends before with hair and just how we talk about it. And most of the content online for hair, and it's now starting to change, and there is this movement, but it was like how to get Chrissy Teigen's ponytail at Coachella. And I'm like, dude, I'm not going to Coachella and it's a Tuesday. Like, I just want my hair look good for a meeting right now and feel really good. And I think there's just been, and there's still so much of that content, people using language like hashtag hair goals or like good hair, which like isn't totally a thing that you should maybe be saying in this day and age. Like there's just, the branding has always felt really dated in this space. The conversations always felt really dated. And I never looked across any of the products that I was using, some really beautiful, like luxury products like Orbe and Christophe Robin, but still rooted in fashion, like not a modern brand at all, and then to even get into the underbelly of like ingredients, what's in a lot of this stuff. Like I have girlfriends who won't put anything that isn't like clean, organic, so on their face, but like you don't even want to know what's in their hair care. And I think that was very much the root of what I wanted to create, was a modern brand, right? Like not a salon brand, not a professional brand. Like, and I have to tell you guys, when I first started doing desk sides, or even when I talk to like beauty editors, they're like, wait, you're not a hairstylist? Like, you're not going to teach me like how to do this thing? I'm like, no, I'm literally just one woman with my own hair journey. And like, if I am an expert in anything, it's like having conversations with women to like talk about how they feel about their hair, And even today, I got a DM from a woman who has a really bad scalp condition, and she lives in Canada. So we're not shipping there yet. We're shipping there soon. And she's like, I can't buy the products, but like your brand has changed the way I'm thinking about my hair. Like I never even knew this was a thing. So much of the ethos and mission of Crown Affair is really around building this modern brand that is beautiful and reminds you to take your time and slow down. And, that shows up in the tools that we make. Very few brands actually make a comb that's like made from plant-based cellulose and like by artisans in Switzerland, and just really remind you to slow down. So that really is what it is to me. And I think something that's so interesting too as a brand, it's like, it is so table stakes to be clean and holistically sustainable that like, I don't, as a beauty company, and if anyone in this Zoom hang is thinking about beauty, I really think about those as product promises, not brand pillars. So a lot of brands are like, we're clean, blah, 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 blah. That's not a brand. That is a product promise. That is not a brand piece. And, that to me is so important, is like taking some of the product pieces out of it and really just focusing on the entire universe that we're building, because the product is such a given.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Dianna, if you don't mind, I love the I would say the vision of the brand. if you don't mind, I'm probably gonna dive a little bit into the more technical part when you start Crown Affair, right? I know many of us here are founders who are trying to start or launch their own product or their own brand. So when you start with Crown Affair, I'm curious, were you just from more, I would say, operation as well as financial perspective, you you work bootstrap in the beginning, like how maybe if you could review a little bit more of from operation or financial perspective how you build it up for the past year, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, so when I first started working on Crown Affair, I was consulting. So I had put aside a fair amount of those monthly retainers and allocated them towards product development. So, hired a chemist that, was highly recommended through friends and had her started working on the first Fruit Chew formula products. Found the vendors in Switzerland to make our combs, Italy to make our brushes, and the one in Korea to make our towels. And kind of begged and pleaded people to just start making samples for us. And I had personally put a little under 50K into working on this product. And then that was the threshold for me. I either needed to raise money, like I could not afford to keep going. And I was basically taking all of the revenue that I made from my consulting business and put it into product development for Crown Affair, and had about 40 samples of the product and gave it to friends and family and said, hey, here's how I recommend using it. Try it for a little, get back to me. And the results were astonishing. People were like, I didn't know something so simple as using like a dual bristle brush could actually make my hair stronger and shinier. Like, just really so many. And people who think when you're like sharing an idea, whatever your idea is, people are not going to be like, that's a horrible idea. Don't get me wrong. I like talked to a lot of people and I was like, oh my God, they probably think Crown Affair is the dumbest thing ever. But if you have a few people coming back to you being like, okay, 2 weeks later, I've been thinking about our conversation and blah, blah, blah. Like, that's when you know you're onto something. And it was scary at first. And I got really lucky because I've been in consumer on the D2C side for the last, almost decade now. And I was able to connect with venture capitalists pretty easily because of my background. Ironically, I have learned a lot. I counted it the other day. I think I've been a part of almost 15 fundraisers as an employee. And first you feel a change like pretty significantly when you go from seed to A, just in terms of like the culture, the vibe, what needs to happen. Like, I always joke that raising money, each round that you raise, it's like you finally learn how to play a sport. Like, you're like, oh, I can totally play baseball. And then they're like, so you're gonna play soccer now. Like, it's just like the game changes and the scalability. It's really hard. So I spoke to a lot of investors that you guys probably know of, lead investors of all the companies I've worked with, and our philosophies were just really different. Like, I didn't want to build a business that spent $1 million on paid marketing a month, like my background is in brand, partnerships, community, influencer. Like, you really see firsthand what it is that converts people, especially in beauty, right? Like, it's different than selling like a mattress or a suitcase where, like, I mean, you guys have seen the Casper details. Like, you have to spend so much money to get someone to buy something. And there ends up being a ton of competition in the space. Like, the brands aren't super differentiated. And I just wanted financial partners that really understood what we were doing in the space that we were doing it. Beauty is really different as a category. Like, retail is still really powerful. Like, I don't know about everyone on this call, but like, I still shop at Sephora and like Ulta, and it's not just D2C when it comes to this category. And there were a ton of learning. So finding the right investors was I got really lucky, but it took a minute. I had over 200 investor meetings, which is a lot of energy to kind of express what your vision is. And I got on, guys, my first meeting was with a bald man. Like, it was truly one of the big, I was like, how do I get this guy to like understand the care piece and the time piece? And he didn't end up investing, but he actually gave me some of the best advice. He has a pretty high growth sock company. And he told me, I was like, how do you sell socks? Like, everyone has a drawer of socks. Like, you can go get socks at Costco. Like, you go get socks on Amazon. And he's like, you have to point out all of the things that nobody ever noticed. Like, the second that you're like, it's a seamless toe, you like look at your sock and you're like, damn it, there's a seam at my toe, or like the arch support. And that is what we did with the towel, which is today our best selling product, which is crazy. Our oil and our mask are very much like our cult products. And I think people who have been longtime fans of legacy brands are changing over to our products. But the towel is designed in such a mindful way. And like, truly all of it was designed before we fundraised. Like I literally sat down with a piece of fabric from the garment district and like cut it in the shape and like put a strap on it. Like it was not sexy at all what I was doing. And then, you know, the beautiful thing about raising money, and this is why we did end up going forward raising money, is because inventory is a huge thing when it comes to a consumer brand. If anybody's thinking about, you know, building a consumer brand, inventory is a massive cash expense. And then truthfully, just like hiring the right team, I think is so important. Like we're a very, very lean team for kind of the revenue and what we're doing. We're 5 people. And, you know, one of the biggest hires was our brand director, our art director, who, you know, I think as you were saying, like it is really challenging to stand out as a brand. And that's not my intention. And I don't think about standing out at all, because the brand is just my Pinterest boards that I've been making for 10 years. Like it's truly just me and what I feel I connect with. But you know, it's really challenging to tell that story. And I know I didn't want to go with a lot of the branding people like who've built the brands that I've been so grateful to work at, but it's just a different world now. And how customers discover and shop, it's just a totally different world than when Warby Parker launched.
Wow, that's fascinating. Well, we have one question. We might as well address that. See if you, I think Caroline asked, how do you approach your CPA setting and scalability as a DTC brand? Sorry, Carol and Christina, I thought maybe we addressed this.
And feel free to add more context too. Is it Carolyn or Caroline?
It's Carolyn.
Carolyn.
Hi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi.
First of all, obsessed with Crown Affair, and props to you. I'm the founder and CEO of Copina. So we're another brand that launched, oh my gosh, well, a few months after you. So we launched February 2020. So coming up.
Kudos to you.
Thank you. So this is something, and like, I love your branding, love the packaging, love how you guys have scaled really and just told your story really beautifully. I wanted to ask you, because this is something I think about, and with some of the growth choices I've made, I've not raised any external revenue. So completely bootstrapped the business. And just growth targets there's no right answer about business. Growth targets are just definitely different that way. And, you know, I am looking at starting advertising, and I'm wondering how you approach, you know, without asking you too much, because I know there are a lot of different dynamics, especially when you have VCs behind you who would like you to grow certain ways. I'd like to just hear how you guys approach, you know, setting your CPAs, you know, setting growth goals as well, in the beauty space.
Totally. So this is not going to be an exciting answer because we spend borderline nothing on paid marketing. We spend about 5 to 8K a month on advertising, and it's all retargeting, which, to put it in perspective, on the time that all of us have been on this Zoom call, Away probably would have spent 100 grand, like just to like keep it in perspective around growth. So the good news is we actually just hired an amazing growth marketer who started last Monday. So she's really going to be focusing on allocating revenues to grow in that way. But I always say, I mean, even and truth be told, with investors, I've kind of been a rebel. And like, I know this is not the case, but I haven't even sent an investor update yet. And it's been over a year. So I just like get on calls with them and I'm like, let me do what I'm doing. And we've been really lucky. I think people have resonated with the message. We've been able to grow entirely organically, 30 to 40% month over month. And the truth is, yeah, thank you. Community and influencer is kind of everything. We don't pay people. Like, I'm not having conversations with people being like, will you post for 5K? But, you know, if there's a content creator, we'll ask them for assets, and they might have like a couple 100,000 followers and they're so proud of the work that they post anyway. Or, you know, just getting product in people's hands and then them authentically speaking to it. Like, I was mentioning earlier, but like Rosie Huntington, the like model actress, yesterday posted our oil, our towel, and the comb, and like using it like on video. And just yesterday's sales were insane. And like, I've never even talked to her. Like, we did a little PR thing with her team, and she like, I was like, I sent her and her team product. I'm like, there's no way she's going to actually get this product, like fingers crossed. And she included it in this whole Vogue or Harper's Bazaar video, Get Ready With Me. And like, that's the kind of stuff that really does move the needle. And I think part of that is because people trust people. They don't always trust brands. And like, no matter how thoughtful you are about building a brand that people trust, like, it's a founder-led brand, Crown Affair. Like, I'm on Instagram. I think people connect with me. Like, we have great customer service. If you call or email right now, Isabella will like totally chat with you about hair. But like, at the end of the day, like, we're still the brand. Like, people want to find out about things from other people. And especially in personal care in general, like, and it's honestly been a challenge this year because I don't know about you guys, but like, I'd go to lunch with my girlfriends and they'd say, oh my God, have you heard of this thing? Try this thing. And people aren't doing that. Like, we're sheltering in place right now. So figuring out how to scale that same amount of surface area digitally is really, really hard. And I think the challenge with ads, they are really important, especially for retargeting as like an impression point. But to try to base your business around conversion of those ads, unless you're truly a wizard at it, which I'm sure you guys can guess by the way I'm speaking to it, I'm not. I need to hire someone who's a wizard at it. And, I think also too, it's very much like rocket fuel. Like, if you're really going to go for it, like, know where you're aiming the rocket. And to be totally candid with you, I didn't really have clarity on what Crown Affair, the insight of what it is that makes people convert to Crown Affair until like November of last year. Like, that was the first time after doing hundreds of customer interviews, reading things, getting feedback, that like, that's why I always think it's so funny. You see a new brand launch and you see all these ads and it's like the messaging's not working because like, I mean, maybe for some people it is and they're total rock stars with it, but I do think it takes a while to like understand what it is that someone is counting on you for, if that's the main way they're coming through you. I don't know if that answers it or helps. It's very challenging is the answer. It's not easy. This is very hard to do is the short answer.
It is, but it absolutely did help answer, and thank you. And I'm rooting for you and so excited for you. So thank you.
Thank you. You too. I mean, and Jordan, who just started, if we have any learnings, I'm always happy to share too. This is a whole new world for us. So we can just do like a full conversation about influencer and ambassador marketing. I mean, the first thing is know your brand and know your price point and know your product market fit. Like, are you selling a $9 razor, a $40 hair oil, a $220 suitcase? Like, know what you're selling and what your goals are with this. And I'll use Outdoor Voices as an example because they ultimately were creating a movement around just like moving your body and doing things. And for them, the ambassador program was so powerful that we built. We had 250 ambassadors all over the country who every month they would get some OV product and their exchange requirement was to post or send photos, or some people who were more the like outdoorsy type would actually host events for us. Like in the Bay Area, they'd be like, we're going kayaking, who wants to come? And that was such an amazing physical community that I think like really worked well. There were also some girls on that ambassador group who like could sell product. I think you have to understand if you're doing a affiliate program or a code-based program, like this is where it's like, know your product, know your price point, know who's selling it. Like, the people that you work with for actual community building are probably not the people who like the code thing is going to work for. Like, out of the 250 ambassadors, 2 girls actually, like, it was meaningful enough for them to like get a kickback. Like, sometimes it was kind of embarrassing. We'd be like, here's your $685 for selling like 3 leggings, and it's just like, it kind of takes like the magic away from the community piece. So, I always say if that's like something that's really going to change your business, for example, if you're like a wearable tech company or a company with a subscription, like that's really powerful. I have friends who like recommend things all the time and they actually give me their code because then they don't have to pay for their subscription. But to require the customer to do that much work, it's usually people gamifying the system. We secretly had a person entirely dedicated at a way to finding people who were like gamifying referral codes to get like $10 back. Like, that's not how you build community, but I think it totally depends on your brand, your message, your community. The end of the day, it's all about actual relationships. And I've spent a decade, obviously, of like doing this with people, even like back at Into the Gloss, like that was community, that was early influencer. And some of those girls, we've just luckily been able to grow together. So they do post selfies of themselves in the Crown Affair towel or on stories, do like a whole mask ritual. And there's so many different levels and layers to it. I mean, some of the best people that are just influential people that have like 230 followers on Instagram. But I think that community building is everything. And it comes from relationships and educating people and starting a conversation around what you're doing. So there's definitely no one size fits all. Don't make a Slack channel unless you're going to have someone to manage it full time is advice. And yeah, it's and I'm really close with the team at Glossier who built their ambassador program, which was code driven. They had the funding to actually build an entire back end dashboard for their ambassadors, but like those codes just like get out of hand. Like it's the kind of the things that really worked 4 years ago, 5 years ago are slightly dated now. And I think real community like this too, like our seedling program at Crown Affair. So which I know Christina knows about, but we very well, but we, right when COVID first hit, I was getting a lot of inbounds on my personal Instagram of kind of recent college grads being like, are you hiring? Do you have internships? Like it was very much this moment of a lot of the girls that looked up to us or aspired to Crown Affair being like, help. And Elaine, who's our president at Crown Affair, who's also very into mentorship and coaching, we literally like got a bottle of wine and we're like, let's just figure out how to scale this. Like, let's make a program for these people. There's so many women like us who want to help and give their time back. And it's so important to, donate and contribute, especially early in the pandemic, but we wanted to give back time. And, one of time is the main brand pillar at Crown Affair, even if it doesn't seem that way. That's like our secret brand pillar is time. And the idea that we could consistently meet for 8 weeks with people, like that's the mirror of like how you take care of your hair and how you show up for yourself. And it was all rooted around growing like a tree, which is very much what your hair is as well. And we launched the mentorship program Seedling. We put it on Instagram. I was like, I hope like 8 people apply for this. Like just somebody sign up. We had over 250 applications the first day. Which we did not expect and took us a long time to filter through those Excel sheet answers. But I think that's such a marker, right? Like we didn't have 250 orders that day. We probably had like 25 orders that day, but I think thinking about your brand and how people can enter your brand in your universe with maybe not buying product. And now what's so funny is sometimes those seedling emails that have no, like to the seedling community that have no product in them are our highest performing revenue emails, and I think that's like, you really have to think about this whole ecosystem of how you build community, how you connect your customers and community, how you show up for each other. And that is really powerful long-term, to me, maybe more powerful than somebody finding your ad on Facebook.
That's really a powerful answer. Thank you so much. We've got a few more questions. Don't know.
Should I ask a question? So someone wants to know more about the team, like who are the people that you like first hired? How do you think about growing your team? Yes. Any advice around that?
Absolutely. The first thing I did was hire for all of my weaknesses. Right. So I didn't go out and like hire a brand marketer who could help me. I was like, I'm cool with answering these emails at 2 a.m. for this stage. Like I need an operations and supply chain person. I need somebody who can sit on the phone with vendors for hours. I need someone who knows what to do when something comes in at customs at JFK and like knows how to handle this. So my first hire was our VP of Ops, who's actually, we promoted after her first year to president. She's incredible. She runs the business with me and is the other side of my brain. So that was my first hire. And as I noted, she's really an incredible manager. I'm not. I'm actually a terrible manager. I'm a really good mentor. And I think that my role as the CEO and founder is to sit with the team, be creative, be inspired, give feedback. But being a manager is really hard. I don't know about anyone on this call, but I've had some pretty horrible managers in my life. And I'm sure everyone on this call has had bad managers. And the truth is finding a great manager was hard. So that was the first person I brought on, and we would not be where we are today without her. So she was our first hire, as well as branding, obviously. So he's not full-time. He's incredible. His name's Shibuya, but he does all of our packaging design, website design, all the collateral, 2D, 3D, everything. So that was the second kind of bigger hire, because I can't execute on any of that. I have no skills when it comes to designing. And then internally, bringing on a PR agency as well. We hired an agency that was super scrappy, very much like Levitate. That is still our PR agency today. And that's a pretty big converter for the brand. I think you'd be surprised, like investing in a good PR team, like making sure those stories are told right. And, you know, a lot of people switch PR agencies all of the time. They like kind of joke that it's a 6-month thing, but really being smart about how you're bringing in partners to your business, because you can't hire a lot of these people full time. A lot of the best people are not available full time. And then on the full time side, really a lot more operations, kind of generalist, entry level. Seedling has actually been like the best like scouting referral program for us. So all of our hires are like love Crown Affair, have already bought the product. Our project manager Mitzi was in our first seedling program, and like the second she graduated from Stanford, we're like, you're being hired. So a lot of generalist roles that are honestly now just starting to take shape, like where people live and what they're doing. I also, the third like big hire I made was our content and community person who could really help me, and she does a lot of the outreach, really understands the full ecosystem of our community and ambassadors, and she's just incredible. So those are the main areas, and we've continued to hire. We just made another designer hire. We're still like a pretty small team. I still do I'm still sending like logos to partners for like email giveaways. So it's not as glamorous as it looks. And actually, I just very excited because I think she's listening in on the call and has helped with preparing this. But Kate, who is like my part-time EI, has changed my life already. So I would say like, I'm definitely somebody who's like, I'm going to do everything, but there is a point, I think, and I'm sure you guys have felt this as a business owner and founder, where you need to bring on more people that you trust to delegate. So, and we just made the growth hire. This was a big ramble. And now we're starting to structure like, okay, how do we take that growth hire and actually really elevate her to build her own marketing team? And I think when you are a small company, all of this is to say, when you are a small company, the first things that you should do is hire for what you don't have skill set wise, and then really inform each hire off of the next person. And takes people time, you know, like they get in, like Jordan, who just came in, we're like, cool, she's going to do growth marketing. And we're like, whoa, she could low-key be like the CMO one day, you know? So it's like, how do you build the whole team around her, kind of shift reporting? So it's definitely a work in progress. And like, no matter how many org charts you've looked at or what you've done, every person is so unique. And business milestones and priorities also change that, you know, as you do, if you're a brand that needs to go into retail, like we'll probably have to hire an account manager for that. That isn't really touching direct. So, and it's hard, cash is not endless. So, you know, prioritizing how you hire and when you hire. And I can't recommend enough too, like bringing in people part-time or trial. And that's not like a knock on them. It's just like, it is a really big commitment to like bring somebody on full-time to your team. And now more than ever, people are at home. Like the whole world has changed, like leading remotely, hiring remotely. Like this is a really good opportunity to like work with someone for 3 months and see if they fit with the team, see what their work actually is before you as a founder are making that cash investment. And more importantly, cultural investment into bringing somebody into your team full time. Totally. It's a very long answer, sorry.
That was a great answer. I have a follow-up. Seeing that you said that PR, like people change PR agency for every like 6 months, like, so what are the, like, say the top 3 things that you need to make sure in order to have a lasting relationship?
I think the first thing is tonally just realizing that you're partners and like leaving ego at the door. Like, I don't care if my cousin's best friend from college, whose sister's the lead reporter at the New Yorker, got us the thing. Like, it, you know, just totally putting ego at the door with like who's owning the relationship is the first thing. I think everyone knows this, but PR has been broken for like a very long time. And like, the truth is once you look under the hood at any of these publications, like, there's like 4 people at Condé Nast right now, guys. Like no one is like a full-timer. Like it's just that whole industry is kind of broken. You can reach most people over DM or email. Most people are freelance writers or contributors. So this whole idea that you need to hire like a big expensive agency who has all these editor relationships is kind of thrown out because most of these editors don't even work full-time at publications anymore. So I think that's the first thing. Second thing is like PR is really hard because the way that it works is like, you shouldn't, but like you might get a month of nothing hitting, you know, or you just need to understand that like it takes 2 years to get that big feature in the New York Times, you know, like it takes, everything is just a relationship. So finding the right agency to work with you to like cement those relationships, right? Like the idea of, here's a pitch, we just launched something. Like, guys, if you got an email from a borderline stranger being like, will you write about our new hair mask? You'd be like, I don't know you, what's up? Like, you know, so it's like, how do you just restructure PR to be about relationships and like talking to editors even when you have nothing to pitch, you know, or like keeping them in mind when like it, you know, I think the whole structure of how PR has worked. And by the way, this is specifically for our, you know, a consumer brand. If you're like a huge company, you probably need like big established, you know, PR in a more corporate sense, but or crisis PR. Like, we're not managing crises on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, that's my advice. And you know, it's hard. I think you should just go with how you like the people, because PR agencies, like, there's nothing more awkward than like the weekly PR call where there's no updates and you're just like, cool, we're doing the same thing, you know? So that's what I would say, is find a partner that can be a real partner, that you can be like, hey, I saw this editor just post on Instagram stories that they're like doing this thing. Like, should I DM them? Should you DM them? Like, just being really collaborative versus like old school PR weekly updates and like spreadsheets with editor Nate. Like, it's just kind of dated.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Lynn has another question for you. Do you do any marketing on the Facebook small business platform, or use more influencers?
We mostly use influencers. We will start to pick up the Facebook small business platform now that Jordan's on board, and we're going to be probably spending a bit on Pinterest as well. Pinterest is actually, people don't talk about Pinterest or LinkedIn enough, to be honest with you. We kind of joke, we'll like look at our Google Analytics and we'll be like, a lot of people are shopping and finding us through LinkedIn. And it's things like this, and it's things like Seedling. Like, also, people are spending a lot of time on LinkedIn right now, whether you have a job or don't have a job, like, eyeballs are there. So are there ways to like, you know, engage with people there? Obviously it depends on your product market fit and business. And same with Pinterest. We've been able to have some pretty big wins there, organically, unpaid. So I will get back to you as we use the small business platform more. But influencers work, like, they do work if you do it right.
Would you ever consider doing TikTok or Snapchat, more video-based platforms, or is that
yes.
question?
No, for sure. Well, so, you know, and ways that we've won very small is like, YouTube works. We're not creating a YouTube. That would take years and literally full-time job to edit a YouTube, but we've seeded to like a bunch of YouTubers, and it converts. I mean, what's Billie Eilish's sister-in-law, Claudia, is like obsessed with Crown Affair. And anytime she even has like a scrunchie, they're like a few dollar scrunchies, and they just like, you see it immediately, like the link. So I think as a business working with creators, it takes a lot of time to edit videos, and even TikTok as well. We've started to try, there's like, the depth of hair TikTok is truly unknown. I think the truth is though, it's like, you know, then leading to a landing page that's like, here's a $58 hair mask. It's like, know your audience, you know, and know how you're going to sell and how you're going to perform. There's a lot of drugstore brands in the hair care space that crush it on TikTok. And again, I don't think you guys will be seeing my face on TikTok anytime soon, but we'll work with creators in that space who can speak to hair care. Or if you guys look at our Pinterest, like, it's all organic, but like, we post stories there all the time that we would never post on Instagram, like, that are about health and ritual and care, and they'll get millions of views. So you know, thinking about stuff beyond product as well on these platforms is really important too.
Hi. Okay. So could you tell me about like day one of Crown Affair? Like how do you actually like, yeah.
It's so funny. I was just texting Elaine before, the day that we launched. So in the office, literally turn the Shopify live, like in the code, you turn it live, you start to see it go live. The thing that was really good for us, actually, and I say this to a lot of people, is if you have product to seed, you should, like 3 days before. We didn't have that many press stories locked in when we, like, the Tuesday before launch. So we launched the 28th, which was a Tuesday. A week before that, we were like, you know, scrambling as you do with packages and shipping and things in your warehouse. And we were in the office every day until like 2 a.m, like just making sure everything was all right. We sent out seeding mailers, which had our comb, a little baby Crown Affair tote bag, some limited edition stickers from a cool designer, and like a thank you note. And we sent them out to 300 people people who have no influence online but are influential, people who have tons of influence online, but if they got rid of their Instagram, you'd have no idea who they are. Like just all the full gambit. And by that Friday, all of the publications that like didn't really, you know, we're like, oh, we'll include it in like a roundup, or like Alora's like, oh, we do like a January product launch or whatever. It then became the main story. Like Vogue, which was one of our key pieces that we launched, I met with their editors. They were like, we're going to include it in like a hair story. By the time that all of the mailers were out, I was on the phone with an editor at Vogue on Sunday, like working on the story with her, like a full dedicated story around time and care and brushing your hair. So that was such an inflection point for us. So by the time that we launched on Tuesday, we had like 12 stories lined up. We had people already posting about it. Our Instagram was growing. And then we went live and it was really scary. We got a lot of orders. We did like 50K in our first day. And I was like, this is crazy. And then like day 2 was also really strong. And then all of February, we sold like 12 things, like not really, but like February was just quiet. And, you know, March was picking up, also kind of quiet. By April, I think is when people started to actually use the oil and use the product. And I think that's something to really be mindful of, is your product life cycle with your consumer. So with beauty products, it usually takes people like 3 months to like try things and like see if they like it and like tell a friend and then like reorder it. So come May, it was like, it just kept growing. But like the first few months were very like, oh, and we weren't running any paid ads. So I was just like waking up every morning. I'm like, I hope we can sell, you know, 10 things today, like every day. And that's normal. If you're launching a business, like it's normal. Like you know, you might have a really good first few days. So yeah. And we went to the warehouse after that day, was on my phone most of the day. And then just kind of knew, like, we just got to keep going. Like we're onto something here, you know? And I think if you have a brand and product and story to tell, that's really different. Like, again, it was weird at first to get on with editors or meet editors and be like, I'm not a professional hairstylist. And like, no, we don't have shampoo and conditioner, but like really launching products that are different. And like, for me, it's all about like elevating and the conversation around hair care, you know, and like surrounding yourself with things that remind you to take care of your hair. So even if you're not using Crown Affair, like how can we create a space, whether it's through Seedling or Instagram or whatever it is, where people are just excited to like have this conversation in a category that hasn't really been that exciting for a long time. And then we got BLTs at like 2 a.m, which Aline and I were joking. We're like, we need to both order BLTs today and eat them as like our 1-year tradition meal.
That's amazing. I can't believe you remember every single detail from that first day. Amazing. Christine has a question. Christine, do you want to ask Dianna your question?
I can try and ask, but I'm working from home. So we have like 2 different conversations going on in the house.
All good.
And now he's laughing and walking away. But I was just curious, you talked at the beginning of the call about like the power of peer-to-peer recommendations and like going to lunch with your friends and like talking about products and stuff. And I actually just created an online platform that allows, it's a web extension. So it plugs into brand websites and it allows friends to recommend products to each other when they're shopping online. And I would just be curious to hear, like, from a brand perspective, like what kind of value you place on peer-to-peer recommendations in order to like help grow your business, just from like a pitching perspective for me.
Yeah. First of all, congrats. That's really exciting. And
Thank you.
Very happy that it's a web extension and not an app. I don't know if you have plans for an app, but
I don't.
Okay, good. Getting people to download an app is such a struggle. And I love that it's a web extension. It's so important. I mean, again, it depends on your product, your price point. If you're playing in the luxury space, then it's really about the curators. So one of our strategies at Crown Affair for year 1 has been doing strategic retail with Goop, Violet Grey, you know, people that are anoint you in this world. Because if you're shopping for luxury hair care, or you're shopping for luxury skincare, like, you might have a friend who has great skin or whatever, and you trust her recommendations, but at that price point, you really want to be like, what is Gwyneth Paltrow using? Or like, what's this beautiful luxury thing using? You know, if it's a face wash or like an acne patch or something, like, I kind of trust a friend to be like, okay, I've used 12 different acne patches and like, this is the one, you know, and it's $9. So I think it kind of depends on your product, your brand, what you're looking to do. Again, thinking about all of these is just an impression point. Like, it probably takes someone 5 to 10 impressions to convert. So a friend, a paid ad, an influencer, you know, a podcast, like, and then someone's like, oh, okay, I'm going to give that a try now. So I do think it's such an important part of the ecosystem. And even especially for Gen Z, like that whole world and community has just been trained to like trust friends more than like traditional publications. We do have a ton of our community is Gen Z, but like our brand is a little bit more aspirational for them compared to a lot of the brands. And it was kind of funny because when we launched, we were launching around, you know, either just after or slightly before Starface, Parade, Studs, like all these players in the game who were like super Gen Z, posting memes all day. And, you know, my philosophy on brand is just a little bit different, and it's so much of who I am. So anyway, all of that is to say it is super important, and I can't wait to see what you're building. Please send it to me at some point. I would love to check it out.
I think Alexis speaks for everyone when she says, congrats on your first anniversary. We're so lucky to have you. This is an amazing, gratuitous event that is your 1 year anniversary. So congrats. What does year 2 look like for you in terms of growth, product development, and marketing?
Thank you. And thank you guys again for having me here. This is so much fun. And seriously, if anyone has follow-up questions or whatever your platform of choice, email, DM, like I love just diving in on all of this. And the fact that you guys are here is a good sign for whatever it is that you're taking on in the world. But yeah, I mean, year 2, our like theme is a business. So it's not really, it's leveling up. So whether that's across things for myself, like doing things, I'm not a big resolutions person, which you probably could assume given how important my rituals are in my life. But my one resolution is to do more things that scare me. And that means connecting with founders that I totally would like. This morning I had a call with Ashley from Lunya. She's also now the chairman of Outdoor Voices. And we have like a couple, not like totally cold email situation, but like, you know, people I have adjacencies with, and just finding time to be like, how did you figure out year 2? Like, how did you get to that next level? And, you know, Nancy Twine, who's the founder of Briogeo, which is the fastest growing hair care brand at Sephora, sent me a DM the other day, just being like, so excited about what you're doing. Let's connect. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so scary texting her, but like, let's do it. Like, you know, just that feeling more and more. So that's kind of my personal mission this year, is like connecting with people that scare me, not being afraid to like reach out adjacently to people who have done this to understand how they did it, because it's really hard. Product wise, a lot more exciting product in the pipeline. I mean, our philosophy is like hero product, fewer better, and also creating things that like don't currently exist in the market. So a really good example and a little bit of a sneak peek for you guys is dry shampoo. Like there's 500 dry shampoos. Like nobody needs an aerosol dry shampoo. Like there's like at least 6 holy grails, whether it's chlorine, living proof, dry bar. And the way that we're using dry shampoo right now is just so different. Like spraying aerosol can all over your body while you're like at home all day, it makes your hair feel horrible. Ultimately, like you don't really want to sleep on your hair at night with dry shampoo. It's bad for you, bad for the environment. And few years ago, I was actually working at Away, and I would spend the whole day out and then like go to an event, and my dry shampoo can was empty. So I grabbed my translucent powder and my powder brush and like dabbed it all in my hair and like in all of kind of these places. My hair had never looked better. Like I truly had never gotten so many compliments on it. And it was just like a Laura Mercier translucent powder. So working with chemists and people to be like, okay, let's think about this application. Like there's a lot of powder shampoos, but like dry shampoos, but they like poof and kind of make your hair look like George Washington-y. So like all of these things, you know, it's just a whole new world of like application at home, how you're using this stuff for the health of your hair. With shampoo and conditioner too, just like most shampoos on the market are super drying, and like just kind of creating like the Cetaphil or CeraVe of shampoo, like just things like that. So we have about 8 products launching this year, which is really exciting, all in the formula space. And lots of partnerships too, both on the tool and formula side. And the other thing that's very real about hair care is just like retail, like distribution and channel change is really, really powerful. I think as we've talked about, like there is kind of a limit on, you know, like you kind of hit a threshold like with influencers and paid marketing. And at the end of the day, like people still shop at Sephora and will never go to crownaffair.com ever. You know, maybe everyone's mom on here is never going to go to my website. So it's like, how do you grow and build and do that the right way? also in a world where like stores are closing. Like I passed a retailer yesterday on 57th Street and there was 8 employees and no people in the store, you know? So it's like, how do you do that right without cannibalizing your own margins in business? It's definitely a whole new world that we're figuring out. But, you know, and then also I think a really good takeaway is like fewer better. So continuing to deepen the relationships with people we've built in year one. So Violet Grey, Goop, we just launched our mask on Goop. We're launching more product with them. Like continuing to go deep and build relationships with a few people. You know, we started, I think we sent Goop like 100 set boxes and now they're ordering things in the thousands. So it really like, that to me is more powerful than having like dozens of boutique retailers that are trying to figure out how to do this right now during COVID. So yeah. And growing a good team.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for having me. This was so special. And thanks everybody for taking time out of your Thursday to come hang out. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Everyone go to Crown Affair.
Yes, Christina's our Crown.
I'm obsessed. I wrote a review in the Incubate Me newsletter, which everyone should also subscribe to if you're not subscribing already. These are the beautiful products and packaging that makes Crown Affair an amazing brand. So.
And she volunteered. There's no pay for her. Just
yeah.
And this is not sponsored. This ad is not sponsored.
Exactly. No. I was joking before. I'm like, whenever I'm like on a conference call or I'm like stressed, I just like comb my hair. It's like the best feeling.
It feels so good. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bye.
Christina, good seeing you. Bye, guys.